Finally, this year's Scott Fish Bowl scoring and rules have been revealed. Knowing what we know, we are returning to the Scott Fish Bowl 15 mock draft this evening. We'll go through 22 rounds, 10 seconds per pick for the purpose of time so that we're not here all night, and we'll have ourselves a ball. Coming to you live on Optimus Fantasy, this is Monday Night Mock Drafts. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan right here on Optimus Fantasy, coming to you every Monday evening until week 1 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Sather. Tonight, I have a fantastic guest joining me for a very important episode for Scott Fish Bowl mock draft season. He is a regular writer for the Football Guys as a key contributor for IDP advice. He is also a member of the RPO Football Show on YouTube. Please welcome Matt Montgomery. Matt, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I am good, Evan. I am coming to you live from my kitchen because I'm about to cook you fools in this mock draft. I don't care that we're just practicing. I'm taking this serious. This is a competition, and I'm ready to go.
Yes, good to get into that mindset, too, as if you're attending any live drafts, it's good to get pumped up for this stuff. I'm attending the Chicago live draft in about 2 weeks from now, the 29th, I believe. Matt, are you attending the Scott Fish Bowl mock draft this year?
Yes, I am in Cincinnati on the 22nd, which is 1 week from Sunday. So I'm super excited. I can't wait. Last year was my first live draft, and it was in Cincinnati. So looking to reconnect with some of the folks that were there last year and hopefully meet some new people so we can keep talking ball.
Ooh, so you're even closer to your live draft than me.
Yeah, I can't wait. So this is actually really good practice because I got to start getting into the rhythm of it all.
Absolutely. So you've done Scott Fish Bowl before as well. So as we learned last Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, these scoring rules were revealed to us. So they're taking away returns value for points, and they've added in 2.5 PPR on Sleeper, but it's 1 point per target on MFL as well as 1 point per reception and 0.5 point per carry. So they're really going hard this year with volume. So what did you think of this addition in lieu of the return value we had last year?
I think it's probably gonna be more fun to watch, in my opinion, because the return specialists last year, while they were fun to draft and kind of fun to pontificate about, it was really hard to see who was going to hold on to those type of jobs all year last year. I think when you get 1 point per target on MFL and 1 point per reception, will keep the leagues a little bit closer in comparison to each other than being kind of two separate leagues with the separate rules. And I think it's more fun to watch receivers we know get targets, get opportunities. So you're actually kind of rooting for players to really be in the game. And I think that brings a whole nother layer to the scoring this year.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I've mentioned on every single episode so far, this is my first year doing Scott Fish Bowl. So I've never done this before. I missed out on all the fun with the return value last year. But so they revealed the starting lineups with 11 starters and then 11 bench, where they're just going hard with the Ultra Flex this year. Oh, yeah. So essentially what that means on Sleeper is just 2 super flex and then 9 wide receiver, running back, tight end flex. So that's going to create a lot of what feels like chaos, and I think Scott did this on purpose to make it really hard to mock draft for. So, Matt, have you done any leagues laid out similarly to this before? And in general, what do you think would be the best piece of advice you could give for planning to draft for such a league like this?
Yeah, the best piece of advice for drafting for Scott Fish Bowl is to have no plan and then don't stick to that either. There's always going to be a random pick. I think last year I had like 1-5 and I took Dak Prescott, which got some boos at the table, and it ended up being a boo pick. But I went into the draft thinking, you know what, I got to do something different. This is a different type of league. It's a different type of scoring, and you're competing against thousands of people. You're not competing against just 10 to 12 people. I like to think of it as, you are trying to put together the best team overall based on the scoring rules for a continued success and even later into the seasons. Didn't work out for me very well last year. I did make the playoffs, but I was immediately eliminated week 1 and it wasn't even close. So my advice to you would be, if you think you know fantasy football and you're doing this for the first time, you do not know fantasy football. It is a very difficult league, but it's super fun. And I think that's what makes it fun, is how challenging it can be.
So, Matt, when I was introducing you to the show, so you're a regular writer for the Football Guys, and your bread and butter appears to be IDP, which is really neat articles that you've put out every single year for a week-to-week basis thing for the IDP stock market. Do you feel that the approach to drafting for IDP has any crossover with Scott Fish Bowl, or are we just looking at pure chaos here?
Well, honestly, the target thing makes sense in a way, and it's not gonna sound like it when I say it here, but a lot of times IDP is about who is on the field, who is getting the opportunities. With targets, it's the same way on here. So if you're an NFL, I apologize to the sleeper fans out there. I'm in a sleeper league, so I'm not even really talking about my own stuff. But when you're getting a target, you're just looking for people with opportunities. Who is in the game plan? And with IDP, it's very similar. Who's on the field? Who has the opportunity to get tackles, assisted tackles, sacks, whatever it may be? So, like it says here on the scoring thing, volume is king. Snap volume being one of those things for IDP.
So, being that we now have a brand new shiny rookie on the Jacksonville Jaguars named Travis Hunter, whose name is very obviously plastered on the scoring sheet here, he is expected to be a two-way player this year between cornerback and wide receiver. There's not really other players active right now who do two-way stuff unless they play special teams or unless they happen to get a tackle after like an interception or a fumble. So, Matt, what do you feel this does for Travis Hunter's value? Can you plan for Travis Hunter for this format? And better yet, can you plan this for any other player that might get some IDP points?
I've been kind of on a ledge here, and it feels like I'm on my own saying that even in regular leagues that are IDP, I don't think it's outrageous to say that Travis Hunter should compete for the 1-1 over Ashton Genty. And it's 100% because he is going to have that unique value that no other player, honestly, in the league will be able to say they'll have. Now, where he will actually be on the field and how many snaps per game will really affect that value. But right now, we are in embellishment season, and I am a glass half full guy. The glass is way full over here. And I am telling you, I think Travis Hunter is slated to be a big factor, not only in their offense, but I do think that he will have snaps on defense where he will be effective. And those additional points, we've all been in tight matchups, especially come playoff time. That one or two tackles he may get week 15 could be all the difference to get you to that next level and potentially win you a championship. So I don't think it's outrageous to see Travis Hunter go early here, and 100% because that IDP scoring is literally just based on him. So if you have him, you have a whole nother avenue to score points.
I've been joking in many circles of the fantasy football community that we're going to see Travis Hunter go 101 and then Brock Bowers go 102. Does that sound plausible this year?
I don't think that that's outrageous at all. I think that Brock Bowers is an animal, and I don't see why you wouldn't want somebody like that on your team, regardless of format, regardless of weird scoring, great scoring, normal scoring, whatever. Not Travis Hunter, Brock Bowers is a phenomenal football player. In fantasy football, the genesis of it all is, are they good football players that will score you points? Travis Hunter, like I said, extra avenue of scoring. Why wouldn't you want that on your team potentially?
Totally. So here's what we're looking at with the sleeper draft this year. We're going to try to get through all 22 rounds because I want to get different here. So we're going to do this. It's going to be a little different tonight where we're going to go 10 seconds per pick in the interest of time so that we're not here all night long. So it looks like we still have the third round reversal, and we're going to see how this turns out. I promised the room that we're going to get going before 7:10 Central, 8:10 Eastern. Matt, my man, are you ready to start drafting?
Oh, I'm ready, man.
I think we should get this started. I'm going to go ahead and click on Start Draft here. Okay.
Mason,
boom.
You're up, baby. Don't mess
All
it
right. So,
up.
Jamar Chase has gone 101 in every single Scott Fish Bowl mock draft that we've done so far. And now that we have the Superflex scoring, this is different. I like this. We have gone quarterbacks a lot earlier than we've seen in other mock drafts. Is Jamar Chase pretty much the de facto 101, or are we going to see that not be the case outside of the mock drafts when we get to the real thing?
Well, you're talking to a lifelong Bengal homer, so you are going to hear no Jamar Chase slander from me. I think he's the best receiver in the league. I think he proved that the first time he stepped on the field as a rookie, and I think that we're obviously going to talk about the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, the LSU, the Joe Burrow connection. I believe what will separate Jamar Chase, honestly, as a Bengal homer, I think he's got a unique quarterback. And I think when you have an elite level talent like Jamar Chase at the wide receiver position, paired with an elite level talent at quarterback, all things remaining equal, Burrow, please stay healthy. Please stay healthy. He'll be the best player in fantasy football this year.
So speaking of an elite quarterback, I just sniped Joe Burrow. Yeah, he really is a special player. I have mentioned many times that have gone to the surprise of people that the Cincinnati Bengals have their struggles on offense, which sounds weird to say because they've got some incredible elite talent in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon while he was still on the team, and now Chase Brown is looking really good. But the offensive line is suspect. There's been fumbling problems. They've struggled to run the football. As a lifelong Bengal homer, Matt, does all of that sound accurate? And are you worried about that at all this coming year too?
Well, let me make my 10-second pick here. Hold on just a second.
Go for it.
My boy Puka Nakua. I think that the Bengals' problems stem from ownership and management. I really believe that. I do think that sort of vibe can trickle down into the actual operations of the team and the on-field football product. That being said, I think that the Bengals management and leadership this year has taken a tremendous step forward. They kept the big three. Nobody thought that they would keep T. Higgins and Jamar and Gesicki. There's still potential. There's still hope for Trey Hendrickson. They just let go Jermaine Pratt today. Say what you want about that, Bengals fans, but I do believe that was to keep Trey Hendrickson, to keep a little bit more money, to throw him the back way, and I think it's a smart decision. So the Bengals' problems have always stemmed from the ownership spot, and I believe because we are seeing a change, and maybe not a changing of the guard so much as a change in action, the Bengals on the field will reciprocate that change and should be competing for the AFC North, but I honestly believe competing for a Super Bowl this season.
I still have a lot of people in the fantasy football community poo-pooing me, hyping up Taj Brooks as a late-round draft pick running back who could potentially get a great opportunity. I'll let you make your pick here before I finish my question.
Oh, oops, hold on.
So,
yeah.
Taj Brooks, I don't know how he looks at training camp yet, but he's got a good opportunity to get some change of pace carries behind Chase Brown. Do you see Chase Brown getting a lot of the same bell cow volume that he was getting last year after Zach Moss went out with a neck injury?
I think that Chase Brown, for whatever reason, the community as a whole just doesn't trust, and I don't get it. We saw high volume. We saw him succeed with that high volume. Say what you want about efficiency stats. Say what you want about yards per carry, yards per reception, whatever. The fact is, he was a focal point of the offense in a high-powered Joe Burrow-led offense. I do think that the quarterback kind of makes an offense. Okay, if you had Justin Fields on this same team, you would not have the levels that the Bengals team went through this year, putting up 35 points and still losing. You would be putting up 20 points and still losing. So I think that the fact that they have an elite quarterback, they've got elite options on the outside, opens up the middle of the field and honestly, play action and straight up runs up the gut, even with Chase Brown. I think Taj Brooks was a good late round pick. I think that every NFL team needs to have two quality running backs in order to run an efficient offense that can actually make you have a change of pace. But I'm all in on Chase Brown. I really do believe that Chase Brown is the real deal there. I wasn't a fan of Mixon towards the end, and I think that Chase Brown did really well in his first real season of action.
I just see Chase Brown as somebody with a similar skill set to Joe Mixon, but first of all, he went cheaper in the draft. Second of all, he has a lot of the similar play style to Mixon, where he's not going to catch a lot of balls, but he's going to run the ball as well as he can behind that offensive line. And I'll let you make this pick before I ask you the final part of that question. So, do you see that as an accurate description of Chase Brown, and does he continue the success he's had?
I do. I think that Chase Brown was not an anomaly. And I think that we need to get prior convictions out of the way. He's a slight running back. He's not exactly an overpowering Derrick Henry type of a build. So we look at him as, he must not be that good because he's not built like a traditional bruiser type of running back. Who's going to get me 2 yards? Who's going to get the red zone touches? Chase Brown has the ability to break 20, 30 yards on any touch. And I think that not every player has that ability. And I think that that's what separates people. When I have a tiebreaker about who should I take in fantasy drafts, I like to look at the big play option. Does he have that boom in him? Does he have the dynamite type of a play in his repertoire? I think Chase Brown is one of those guys, but don't sleep on Todd Brooks. You don't make picks for players you don't intend to play. All right. And I think with running backs, we see it every year. It's never just one. There's probably going to be over 100 to 150 running backs that will get a touch or a carry of some kind this year. So who's to say that Taj Brooks can't be one of those late round rookie running backs who exceeds our expectations and comes out of nowhere? I'm hopeful of it as a Cincinnati fan. I'm just more of a fan of Chase Brown.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly well said statement. I'm on Taj Brooks this year, just like Jamie here. I don't know if we're going to see a 65-35 split. I think it's going to depend on who steps up in that backfield. Is it too early to say how much that split's going to look like?
I think so. I think training camp tells us all. Just seeing what packages he's going to be played in, because my biggest concern if I was worrying about who's going to get the 50-50 reps or 60-30 or 60-40, whatever it is, I think that the person that you need to look for, you need to look at when are they playing? Is it traditionally when they're in the goal line? Is it, third and short? Is it third and long? Is it second and short? What packages are these players going to do? So I think training camp and specifically preseason, because you never know. There are still other running backs on this team. I believe Taj Brooks will be the set number 2 running back, but it would not shock me, especially in today's day and age of the NFL, if there was another surprise guy that just pops up there that just becomes another, almost like a utility knife type of a player where you can just put him in any sort of situation, maybe not Wildcat, Taysom Hill type of situation, but just change of pace, give him a spell on the bench. And you know what? It wouldn't shock me if they rode the hot hand.
Hot hand seemed to be the way the Bengals wanted to open the season last year anyway, prior to Zach Moss's neck injury.
Yeah.
All right, really I think I've asked you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to say I was really bummed that we didn't see Zach Moss over the course of the full season with us. Obviously, a neck injury is super serious. You don't ever want to, rush somebody back from something like that. But I don't really ever feel like the Bengals got going. There was a really ugly start to the year with contract talks and sitting out. And I don't really feel like the team really came together till week 4 or 5. We saw some results on the field, but I just don't think you can put together an NFL season midway through the year or even in the early goings of the year. So you get a full team at any kind, not just the Bengals. You got to get together early. You got to be cohesive for the beginning of it. You got to go through the woes, and then you got to go through the whole regular season and pray that your health stays together.
Lou seems to disagree here, where they brought back, I actually forgot they brought back Samaje Perine to be the veteran presence back there, and Zach Moss still is on the team. Do you see this as a big uphill climb for Taj Brooks, considering his capital?
To be completely honest with you, if I had a room of Samaje Perine and Zach Moss, and then I introduced a rookie running back, I personally would probably be more apt to try the rookie, just because we know what we get with those other guys. You know what you're going to get, and they're not bad players. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I'm a new fancy shiny toy type of guy. Ooh, let's look at this. Wonder where we can play him. What packages can we play? Where should we put him? And I think that not Zach Moss, I'm sorry. It's hard to do this 10-second thing, man. I'm just like flying through stuff while I'm thinking. I think that the Bengals have a bunch of running backs, which is not good for fantasy football purposes unless you have the number 1, and Chase Brown's the number 1. As far as what goes on after there, you're kind of rolling the dice. I think that Todd Brooks has a way to play because those other guys are just kind of NFL journeymen.
As you're making your next pick here, I really like the team you've got started here, where you got your Josh Allen, you got CJ Stroud a little later, you didn't have to reach on that next quarterback, Puka Nacua, JSN, Omarion Hampton, and then you got Travis Etienne as your second running back. I don't know if you want to reveal your draft strategy necessarily because you got that live draft next week, but does this look similar to how you're going to attack your draft?
The draft strategy right now is to not get skipped on the clock. But to be frank, though, I'm just going to see who falls to me, and especially in drafts like this when you have weird scoring. I'm not reaching on players. I know I love the adage, go get your guys, and I respect that, and I believe you should. But I also think you need to target value. Okay, so Josh Allen, getting him 3rd overall. What other draft are you getting Josh Allen? Are you taking Josh Allen 3rd in a super flex type of a league? All right, so getting Josh Allen at 1-3 is pretty cool. I don't like taking a rookie running back as my first running back, but Omarion Hampton in a Jim Harbaugh-led offense where it's going to be ground and pound, 300 carries, let's hope, for this particular draft. I just think that you have to look at who's available and don't reach. You don't need to reach until you're getting into the later rounds. Never reach early. Don't reach early. Early picks are there for a reason. You know who's good. Pick the guys who are good. Take your reaches, take your sexy, dramatic rookie sleeper picks. Do those a little bit later on, I say, as I take Omarion Hampton.
And I just grabbed Najee Harris with my 10-11. So Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, I'm seeing this as a backfield that is going to start off in a close to 50-50 split as they get acquainted with the Jim Harbaugh offense, and until Hampton proves he can take a larger workload. But Najee Harris is not getting paid. I don't remember how much he's getting paid off the top of my head, but he's not getting paid like superstar money by any means. But do you agree that that's how that backfield's going to start?
No, I don't know because I think Jim Harbaugh is an unorthodox guy. So I could see him bucking the trends a little bit. To be honest with you, I think I'm more worried about Justin Herbert in that offense than I am the two running backs. And I think it's because they finally have an established 1-2 punch. I think that the 1-2 punch they tried to roll out last year was just meh. I think that this year they've immediately upgraded at the one position that Jim Harbaugh values the most in that offense outside of quarterback, of course. He was on record saying that he wants to make Justin Herbert a Hall of Famer, that he had a vision. It came to him in a dream that he wanted Justin Herbert to be a Hall of Famer. So maybe that changes the way you look at it a little bit. But no, I think this is the first time we've actually seen Jim Harbaugh put together, okay, if I had, a bruising power back with the young electric guy like an Omarion Hampton, and we just kind of punch, 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 and then have Justin Herbert roll out for some play action. Wouldn't shock me at all if this offense comes back this year and has a big, big year.
I think that's very plausible as well. And when I saw Justin Herbert's rookie year, man, that young man was balling when he came in, when Tyrod Taylor had that crazy accident with that injection in his lung that went wrong. And they had to stick in Justin Herbert. I think it was Anthony Lynn as the head coach as their time, and he thrived in that offense. So I believe Jim when he says that he can make him a potential Hall of Fame quarterback. Matt, I noticed that your jersey is purple as opposed to a Bengals jersey. Whose do you have on?
Justin Jefferson. Because
yes,
why would
sir.
I not confuse our viewers right now by talking all how I love Jamar Chase and then I rock a Justin Jefferson jersey? Honestly, every year it started out forever ago, but me, my dad, and my brother have been huge fantasy football fans since I was just tall enough to carry a football. And every year, our favorite fantasy player, the one that we felt like we had the most of a connection with, for Christmas each year, we get each other a jersey of that player. And I happened to luck out and got a Justin Jefferson jersey. I took him in a rookie draft, and it was one of the better picks I've ever made. And I remember being a little bummed that I had to pick him at 1-7 or whatever it was. And I was like, man, do I really want this Jefferson guy? Well, let me tell you what. That's the last time I've ever told that story. I'm just going to tell people, hey, I just knew it. He was good. I could just feel it.
So in this mock draft, I grabbed him at the 111. Do you see him going this late in these common drafts once we get to the real thing?
Real drafts? No. If he goes 111, you're winning the first round, I think. Because I mean, at 1-1, I don't like having 1-1 specifically because that's the one pick that you can mess up. At least at 1-2, you can say, well, at least it wasn't that guy. Or, hey, I would have taken that guy if I was 1-1. If you can get a Justin Jefferson at 111 and then immediately, let's say you have a 12-team league, and 2 picks later, you can pick up like maybe one of the first quarterbacks, depending on what your league style is, or a nice semi-tier running back there. You have a really good foundational start to your draft. So, yeah, Justin Jefferson at 111, steal, no matter the format.
I'm seeing the chat here in this mock draft, and it's been pointed out that I wish we could sort by position. You guys can't see this on screen right now, but being that this is an ultra flex format, you can sort by flex and super flex. You cannot sort by position. It seems to me that Scott knew what he was getting into when he created this, making this as difficult as possible for people like me to be hosting these mock drafts. And all I have to say to you, Scott, if you're listening, challenge accepted. We're doing this anyway.
We love it, man. We love it.
So we are through 15 rounds so far. You guys are surprising the ever-living heck out of me. I was expecting this draft to take about 45 minutes, but it's looking like we're going to be finishing a lot sooner than this, which kind of makes me look like a fool because I could have backed this down to 30 seconds, but the 10 seconds kind of adds this level of chaos, just matching this theme in Sleeper right now. Mace even agrees that he's loving this draft right now. This is...
Yeah, Mace.
But Lou, on the other hand, well...
I feel you, Lou. This is tough, man. Try talking and drafting at the same time. I thought it would be easy.
I mean, hey, it's not, especially not as easy for me to look at the comments to put on the screen and then have to decide, oh crap, who do I draft next?
Oh, man. It's fun, man. Don't you just love doing this stuff? What better to do in the middle of the dead end of the sports calendar than to just talk about fake football?
It especially gets harder in these later rounds because it's like, oh crap, which backup guy do I take at this point? And
I know
DeAndre
that's where I'm at.
Hopkins, I happen to get in the 17th. So old veterans like DeAndre Hopkins don't tend to get a lot of love anymore because guys like him are obviously past their prime, Matt. If you're taking DeAndre Hopkins as a late, like, fourth or fifth wide receiver, do you think he's going to have a great role in this Ravens offense?
I have a rule that I never take Ravens wide receivers. Zay Flowers is kind of the only exception. And it has nothing to do with Lamar Jackson. I think he's a quarterback. I think the whole running back discourse was stupid back when we were actually having that discussion. I think he's an elite quarterback, but I just don't think that their offense revolves around having multiple receivers. I think they are comfortable having an elite tight end, having a dynamic number one option, and then an elite running game, whether that's option runs with Lamar Jackson or, oh yeah, the guy Derrick Henry, you've ever heard of him? He's pretty damn good, and he's still good. He does not care about what you think his age should mean in his returns. He is absolutely phenomenal, and he will be phenomenal, I think, until the man wants to be done. And now he's got an incentive. I'm not sure if you saw the Dan Patrick show where Adam Sandler said if he gets 2,000 yards, he will put him in his next movie. So a little bit of an incentive, to go for 2,000 more.
I think Derrick Henry could absolutely reach that.
100%. I don't think that Derrick Henry's grow on trees, man. He is an elite level athlete, and he is an exceptional football player as well. So I think the sky's the limit for him, and I truly believe that I think he'll be done when he says he's done because he's just got the type of body that eventually all those hits, because he forces contact. He is not a juke you out of your shoes type of a runner. He wants contact because he wants to see, are you man enough to take me down? And I think that eventually will catch up with him, but it'll be on his clock, no one else's.
I 100% agree with you about Lamar Jackson too, though. I don't remember where. Let's see. Yeah, he went 104, second quarterback off the board. I think that's more than reasonable, coming off of a huge career year where he threw for over 40 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions. You want to talk about Lamar Jackson and ball security? This ain't it, Chief. He's got ball security. He can absolutely hang on to that football and lead you to the promised land, whether it's through his legs or with his arm. Everybody acted like he can't throw, but then Zay Flowers did well. He did well enough with two tight ends. Like Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are not guys I'm going to be targeting very high in common fantasy football leagues. I'll happily take him in Scott Fish Bowl, but that's the thing. It's like the passing game, like you just said, it's not really built for the wide receiver, or at least nobody sticks out. But if you've got CeeDee Lamb on the Ravens, does that change?
I think maybe the caliber of player, I think CeeDee Lamb is better than Zay Flowers, but I still don't think the way that the offense runs that would be that much of an increase at the ceiling than what Zay Flowers' current ceiling is. That being said, I would actually personally hate to see CeeDee Lamb in the AFC North. So let's not speak that into existence. But I just think that the way that they run, it's a Harbaugh offense. I know I was just talking about John Harbaugh. The Harbaughs play football a certain way. We are tougher than you. We are going to beat you down physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you are either going to lose to us or you will survive playing us. There is no in between.
Yeah, well said. John Harbaugh, I've had a lot of questions about in the past when the Ravens had horrendous defense last year, but yet they were still a 13-4 team, if I'm not mistaken. They went 13-4 last year. I didn't think they were going to do anything below 15 wins just with how looked they good the year prior to that. But this is still an AFC contender, even if their defense is awful. And as a Bengals fan, you're still worried about the Ravens at this point, right?
I'm always worried about the Ravens, and I'm always worried about the Steelers. The AFC North, I know it's a bias, but for a while, I believe it was the best division in football. And it wasn't just because the teams were stacked full of stars. It was because there was no definitive this team is going to win the division. There was a 5 to 6 year run where I don't believe anybody could accurately pick that division because the competition is staunch. There is no favorite. Everybody likes to pick the Ravens, and I do not blame them for that. But I believe that at any given time, hell, the Bengals went for 2 in a primetime game on the road to try to beat the Ravens. Okay, so yes, they lost to the Ravens. 1 point based on one play decision. Could have went to overtime. I think it's a great play. I think you go for the win on the road in that moment. But this division is not oh, this team is better, and then there's everyone else. It's all right there, and it just depends on when you get on the field, who's going to win it. And to the Ravens' credit, they've won the games.
That they did. Before we review how this draft went, let's look at Vince's comment. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, not Vince's comment. Jamie's comment real quick. Love how you didn't say the clowns. So the Cleveland Browns, I don't know what the heck they're supposed to be at this point between having 5 quarterbacks on the roster, multiple running backs that they drafted to replace Chubb. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the Browns were also another contender to bring back Chubb, but we read from today that the Nick Chubb passed his physical and is now a Houston Texan. I drafted Joe Mixon. So first things first, Cleveland Browns, with all these rookies that they drafted, are we looking at another 3-14 or worse season for the Browns?
I don't think it'll be that bad. I'm a Shedeur Sanders truther. I think that by Thanksgiving, he'll be the starting quarterback. I don't believe he is a backup in the NFL. I think he fell in the draft because everybody has an opinion of who he is as a person, whether it's because of his dad, whether it's because of the fringy draft party, whatever it may be. Everybody has an opinion of the Sanders family, and that's fine. But there is no such thing in the NFL as a celebrity backup quarterback. The celebrity backups that garner the headlines, and eventually the fans will clamor for him, and he will get on the field sooner than later. And I believe that he has NFL quarterback accuracy, and in this league, it's an accuracy league. You don't have to be the super athlete. Those guys are good. They will get more reps. They'll get more opportunities. But if you are an elite, accurate passer, and maybe elite's a strong word for Shedeur, but if you're an accurate passer and you can get the ball to the spot on time, you will survive in this league longer than people think. I think Dylan Gabriel is a bit smaller, and that we've seen small quarterbacks do well, but the further away we get from Russell Wilson at his peak, the more you're seeing that he was an outlier at the time. Baker Mayfield's another great example. There are guys that are slight that can make an impact in the league, but I don't see Dylan Gabriel as being that guy. I see Shedeur Sanders being that type of guy because he's handled this type of pressure. He handled it for the last 2 years of Colorado. I mean, every single headline with Colorado had the word Sanders in it. I promise you. Just take my word for it. So he understands what it's like to kind of be the face of the franchise in a way already, to the level that the NFL media will critique him. And I think that that is also something that rookie quarterbacks have to learn when they come into the league, and he's already a step ahead of his counterpart.
Yeah, that was a lot of praise to say about these quarterbacks, Matt. And I got to be honest, you are the first person I've ever spoken to who actually believes in Shedeur Sanders. Kendall here drafted Shedeur Sanders as his 4th quarterback. So as the 4th quarterback, how great is that value going to be for Kendall if this was the real Scott Fish Bowl draft?
I think it's good value. I don't know if I'd roster 4 personally. I know it's super flex and you start in 2, right? Because it's kind of a no-brainer to start 2 with these scoring settings. 4, I mean, what was it, like round 7, or what is it, round 17? So in round 17, yeah, what the heck do you have to lose? I mean, we're all drafted backups anyway, so it's not a bad pick because let's say he does pop. I mean, when he does get into the games, they're going to have no film on him. And I think that we get that initial QB rookie bump if they're good. We also get that rookie downtrend if they're bad. They're rarely okay in their first starts. They're either really good because nobody expected it, or they're really bad because they're not ready for the league. I don't know when he's going to start. I have a feeling it's going to be before Thanksgiving because I don't think Flacco's the guy. Kenny Pickett, you seem like a nice dude, not my cup of tea. And like I said, Dylan Gabriel just doesn't give me that striking quarterback take over the room type of a vibe. Shedeur Sanders does do that for me.
Very interesting, and it's certainly bold analysis. We'll see how it goes this training camp and preseason, right?
100%. This is the last pro Browns thing you're going to hear from me too. I do believe they are the clowns. Love you, Jamie.
So Matt, if we take a look at this from a 10,000-foot view, I'm with Charlene on this because every pick definitely felt like a panic pick when you see the 10 on the board and you let it get inside your head and you're like, oh crap, who do I pick next? Especially on Sleeper where you can't sort this by position, which is going to be extra interesting. Well, I mean, only for the sake of this mock draft because we have a much slower clock. Interesting. So overall, looking at this from a 10,000-foot view, who do you believe had the best draft?
Matt Monty FF from the 1-3 spot. And let me tell you why. No, I'm just kidding. To be honest with you, I hadn't really gotten a chance to look at the board, and it's 100% because I was so worried about who I was going to pick. I don't even care who you picked. So I'm just kind of a brief thing. I like Justin Bigler's. I like the three tight ends in the middle there because I think they're all pretty high upside tight ends. And then he waited until round 10 to do so. So you've got Dalton Kincaid, then Kyle Pitts, then Isaiah Likely back to back to back. I hate Kyle Pitts. All right. He seems like a nice guy, but I just can't do it anymore. I had him in so many leagues and so many times I was left kind of like holding a grenade in my hand without the pin. And I just don't like having that type of feeling. I like having elite. This is the guy I'm going with. That being said, I do think that quarterback play did contribute a little bit to his downfall last year. This guy was supposed to be drafted to be Brock Bowers. That's how everybody hyped him up. Brock Bowers did what everybody wanted Kyle Pitts to do for the last 4 years. And Brock Bowers did it on the Raiders. So it's not like it can't be done if you're overcoming what could be looked at as a 100% Lou. And Kyle Pitts seems like a nice guy if I didn't mention that already. But it's 100%. Kyle Pitts has the body to be an elite athletic receiving option. I don't know if I'd call him a tight end. I don't think he's your typical end line. I'm also going to block 50 times a game type of tight end. And I think that's at his detriment. I think that's when Arthur Smith was there ruining everybody's fantasy lineups where they were going after, I believe it was Jonnu Smith at the time. They identified Jonnu Smith as a better option in that offense because he played more of a traditional tight end type of role than Kyle Pitts, who's almost like a glorified slot receiver, which is a lot like Kincaid, which is also a lot like Isaiah Likely. So I like what Justin did here because he picked those tight ends that are almost flexed out as slot receivers in good offenses.
Looks like Colin's a fan of your zero tight end route that you went as well. Coming back to this, yeah, you didn't take any tight ends, so I'm sure this was just because of the 10-second clock, right?
Partially, yeah. I'm not going to just blame your clock for everything. To be honest with you, part of it was the sleeper thing. I was panicking on who to pick, and then it took me about 8 rounds to realize I could just press flex to see all the non-quarterbacks. So I kept having to scroll through quarterbacks, panicking. Everybody's watching me. There's millions of people watching this podcast, I'm sure, too, which is giving me the angst, right? So I would not go zero tight end, Colin. That is an astute observation. It was a dumb move. Thank God this is a mock, and that's why we do these things. We track this. So, no, I promise you, when I'm live drafting in Cincinnati with a nice ice cold beverage in my hand, I'm going to be trying to finagle the boards a little bit, see what type of value hits me. I feel like I should have taken at least one of those 3 that I mentioned with Justin earlier. But I also really liked the Brenton Strange pickup by sweating it. Is that what it says? Sweating glitter?
Yeah, sweating glitter, if I'm not mistaken.
I really enjoy that Brenton Strange move at 13 because I don't think he's getting a lot of buzz and he's good. They just let go of Evan Ingram. So there's a pretty good spot open up there. And we saw him boom. I think it was 1 or 2 weeks this past season. I think Trevor Lawrence is still the guy there. Now that they have an additional receiving option with Travis Hunter and Liam Cohen, there's nothing that this Jaguar ceiling has been amplified, and we're going to see new players do new things in Jacksonville. So we need to get rid of our Jacksonville priors and look forward to the new options. Brenton Strange being one of them.
So yeah, I really like the Brenton Strange pickup as well. I picked him up as a late waiver wire pickup in my home dynasty league, and I knew that Evan Ingram wasn't exactly going to come back, but what I was worried about what the Jaguars were going to do at number 5 was select somebody like Tyler Hunter or Colston Loveland to replace Brenton Strange. But no, they did not go after a veteran either. They didn't go after Zach Ertz. They didn't go after you name it. They didn't coax Darren Waller out of retirement. They seem to be going Brenton Strange as the starting tight end. So
hip hop artist Darren Waller?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about hip hop recording artist Darren Waller?
I prefer not to talk about that on this show. So where I'm going with this, Matt, so with Brenton Strange going this late at 1308, is this, with the Liam Cohen offense, is this really the year of Duval?
I really hope so. My little bro is a ginormous Jacksonville fan. So the brother in me is really rooting for them. I don't think that a fancy new coach is going to turn them from 0 to hero. Their division is not exactly the strongest, though. And I think that could give them a little bit more staying power because I believe the team will be involved longer than most Jacksonville teams are involved. I think that you'll see these guys make business decisions come week 10 to 12. You're out of the playoff race. Now you're thinking of your long term health, your contract situation. When you're fighting for a playoff spot, you know what you're thinking about? The Super Bowl. You're thinking about the rings, the fame, the potential for the next big goal. And I think that if they can stay around that 500 range, 5-5, 6-6, you're going to really see this team potentially double down on what they can do long term. They're not going to give up. And I root for bad franchises. I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan, a Cincinnati Bengals fan. So I can tell you, these dudes quit. They will quit, man. And it's not because they don't care about the sport. They're starting to think about their injuries. They're starting to think about things that maybe aren't Super Bowl aspirations. So I'm rooting for Jacksonville. I do think they'll be competitive this year, and I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is washed like the community seems to think he is.
You're the first person I've heard bring up Trevor Lawrence being washed, considering that he did have that cheap shot happen to him where he had that major concussion, and that sure didn't help with his awful offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever been hit in the head so hard that all of a sudden you just like don't remember the last 15 seconds?
I'd prefer not to know what that feels like.
Bingo, right? Like if I bonk my head on a kitchen counter while I'm putting dishes away, it ruins my night. Can you imagine a 270-pound man running full speed at you and slamming you to the ground and then having to get up and do it again and then try to act like everything's going on normal, even through recovery? I mean, these are serious injuries. These are brain bruises. These are not just, oh, ouchie, I got to leave the game. We're not pulling an Anthony Richardson here and leaving because we're tired. So I do believe that that was for my Indy fans. I do believe that Trevor Lawrence, maybe he had over the top expectations and did not live up to them. So we are bummed out that he did not take the mantle of the guy in the NFL. But there were a lot of talented quarterbacks in the NFL, and I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is not talented. I just think we had extremely high expectations.
So Lou Brunson is our resident Buffalo Bills fan at Optimus Fantasy, and he definitely participated in our mock draft this evening. He selected Anthony Richardson at the 14-12. I'm sure some of it was just because he happened to be on the board and we only have 10 seconds per pick, but if he's your third quarterback in a league like this for Scott Fish Bowl, is that worrisome that he's behind Geno Smith and Caleb Williams?
Well, Lou, I hate to say it, man, but Anthony Richardson sounds like a nice guy. No, I'm just kidding. I think that his upside is tremendous. If he does turn it around, if he takes all of the press clippings, all of the media, all of the schmucks like me on here making fun of him, and he takes that serious, and he looks in the mirror and he says, all right, I've got to be better, and then makes that next step, he has an elite level ceiling. I don't believe that I don't think he's going to get the chance to make that step. I think that they're pretty invested in Danny Dimes. I think that now that Irsay, rest in peace, is no longer there, and we saw the leadership change kind of officially happen today, we're going to see some different Indianapolis Colts this year. Now, do I believe that just because an ownership change, things are going to change on the field? Not necessarily, but I do think that the Colts are in a transition period, and what better way to start experimenting with quarterbacks when the rest of the fan base doesn't exactly expect much this season. So I could see them taking some risks at quarterback and running it back with Daniel Jones, who is athletic and is a rushing quarterback in his own right.
Yeah, because you brought up the game where he came out for a whole drive because he needed a break. I was talking about this with a few friends as well, where I believe this is just reflective about Shane Steichen's reign as the Colts head coach, where there's reports, especially on the Pat McAfee show, that Colts players were showing up late to team meetings and not being held accountable at all by Steichen and management. So that to me seems indicative of a culture problem, which is also reflected in their final season record. Do you see that changing at all for the Colts now that Irsay is gone? And even then, maybe it's not right away. Maybe it's a couple or 2 or 3 years down the road. Is this better now that Irsay's oldest daughter is the principal owner?
I don't know that answer because I'm not quite familiar with the Irsay family as a whole, as far as like what they do in their roles prior to what they are being asked to do now. What I can say is I think that the best thing that's going to happen to the Indianapolis Colts would be if Oklahoma City would beat the Pacers, and it would be because they would be so disappointed that they wouldn't pay as much attention to the Colts. I don't think that Anthony Richardson has a path to stardom here. I do think that Anthony Richardson is going to get looks, though, when he does inevitably leave. And I think that it would be worth a second team because I do think that in life you have to be humbled at times. I think that you start reading your own, you start reading your own tweets, start, feeling yourself a little bit, and then you make a decision that you feel was in your best interest. He was tired. I don't blame the guy. I get tired watching these dudes run. And I think it backfired, and I think he lost the locker room. And you can lose a game. You can't lose a locker room, especially as a starting quarterback, especially when you were being tasked to be the franchise. When you lose that, there is now kind of a void of leadership. And like you said with Shane Steichen, we're starting to hear more and more and more. I mean, McAfee, say what you want about him, he is as locked into that team as anybody. So when you've got a guy like him on a platform like that saying there's a leadership void here, nobody is holding each other accountable. You got people falling asleep in meetings, not even showing up to meetings. That says a lot about your coach, your organization, and your starting quarterback. I promise you. I'm not sure if you guys, I'm going back to the Bengals. Sorry, guys. Jermaine Burton is a great example of this. Jermaine Burton last year, the rookie receiver for the Bengals, had a very, very bad off the field narrative surrounding his name, going up to casinos, going up to the game in pajamas late. And there is flipping. I'm not going to say what Joe Burrow was mouthing, but he was sitting on the bench, and Burrow effectively said, "Get the heck out of here," and kicked the dude off the bench in the middle of the game. So Anthony Richardson's not that guy, and maybe he wasn't asked to be that guy. But when you have that type of a personality, and then you have the other stuff, the going off the field, all the chaos kind of ensuing this organization, I have low expectations. And as a redraft, I'm avoiding him. In Dynasty, I'm definitely keeping an eye on him and potentially buying, depending on kind of how the narrative of this season goes.
So in my home redraft league, I bought Anthony Richardson when he got benched for Joe Flacco. What I did was I gave up a second round pick along with Calvin Ridley in exchange for Anthony Richardson. Just a trade like that in a 10-team PPR Dynasty league, which is my home league. Are you happy with me getting A-Rich in exchange for all that?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I don't know if I'd have done it personally on either end. I'm not a big Calvin Ridley guy either. I think the second round pick is just it's a luxury dart throw. Everybody, if you're in a 12-team league, let's say you get the 210. I mean, you're taking the 22nd best player, so it's not a bad pick, but you can still mess up picks like that. And then, like I said, Richardson has the highest ceiling, so you picking up the player that I believe has the highest ceiling would win the trade. I don't know if I'd have had the stones to make it, but I also not a big fan of Calvin Ridley. So, yeah, I don't know if I'd have done it, but I don't hate it.
So there was another Bills question I was going to ask you earlier that I just lost track of. So as I mentioned earlier, Lou is our resident Bills fan on the team, and we were talking about Dalton Kincaid earlier. Now, Dalton Kincaid played through two separate knee injuries in both of his knees last year and seemed to have some issues connecting with Josh Allen building chemistry in his sophomore year. Does Dalton Kincaid overcome those?
I think that we have gotten used to the elite rookie tight end, and we forget that in years prior, it took these guys 3 to 4 seasons to really break out. We're so used to seeing these one-of-one type of guys, the Brock Bowers, that we forget that it took a Mark Andrews, a 4th-round pick, 3 to 4 years to pop. We forget that Trey McBride had his rookie season was not good at all, and now suddenly he's tight end 1. We forget that the Jonnu Smiths of the world, who's like season 7, is now all of a sudden a darling tight end. So tight end as a position, I would argue, is one of the harder positions to learn because not only do you have to know the route tree, you have to take on physically imposing defenders at a high level or you will not get on the field because you are tasked to do so much more than just run across the middle, catch ball, dive on the ground. There are not a lot of tight ends that get consistent playing time that are strictly in there to catch the ball and hit the ground. You have some, but those guys are usually the elite type of players. I know nobody's looking at Brock Bowers to say, hey, let's do block the lead blocker on the play. Brock Bowers says, hey, go down the field, catch the ball. Now, he is an elite one-of-one type of a player, but if you're Dalton Kincaid and you were drafted thinking, okay, he might as well be the Bills' number 1 receiver, I think that discourse was going around for a little bit in the post-Stephon Diggs off season, and he's not been that guy. So now we're going to discard him like he's trash. I don't think he's trash. I think that he had, like you said, dual knee injuries. So 1 knee injury is a lot in the NFL. Imagine having 2. And his quarterback is arguably the best quarterback in the league. I want players that have elite quarterbacks giving them the ball, especially in a target point league like Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah, I think that's really well said too, man. I am so glad to hear you say that you got to wait until their third season to see what a common tight end coming out of college has to show in the NFL, because you really have to allow 2 full seasons in order for rookies like tight ends show their stuff for what they can offer in the NFL. And you got to be patient with tight ends for that reason. So we see a sophomore slump with Dalton Kincaid. We see a sophomore slump with C.J. Stroud for entirely different reasons out of his control. Just an overrated offensive coordinator in Bobby Slowick Jr., losing key weapons in Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. So I guess I'll bring this over to C.J. Stroud. What does his third season look like in the NFL to you?
Man, he's a guy in Dynasty I actually bought this offseason, because I do believe that, like you just said, I don't know if I'd go as far to say that Slowick is overrated. I think that they don't have elite receivers, and I think that that's part of the problem. I think that he needs to be one of those guys that just get better every single week. We had such high expectations for him year 2 because he had a great year 1. We forget they make these terms, these cliches on purpose. Sophomore slump. That's not uncommon. So let's not act like it's uncommon and all of a sudden CJ Stroud has dropped off the cliff. Now, he might not be Patrick Mahomes like we were comparing him to year 1, but I don't think that he is Anthony Richardson. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to be there a while. I think he has finally bucked the trend of Ohio State quarterbacks. And because of that, I think that he is going to have a great third season.
So you mentioned that you don't believe the Texans have ever had elite wide receivers when C.J. Stroud was drafted. Lou brought up Nico Collins. Are you not in on Nico Collins this year?
I'm in on a full season of Nico Collins. I don't think that I apologize. I did miss Nico Collins. Lou, you're on me. I got you. That being said, you got to have more than one. If I know that you only have one guy I trust, I'm going to game plan that guy. It's the Belichick argument when they play. I'm not sure if you're a Chad Johnson. Everybody knows the mic'd up one where Bill Belichick looks at Chad Johnson and says, "Hey, we're going to double you the whole game," because they're going to make you beat them with other players. If you know you have an elite one player and you can try to take him out of the game plan, beat me with somebody else. And I think CJ Stroud got a little bit of that last year. Beat me with other players. Beat me as a quarterback should beat me in close, tight games now that we have a year of film on you. And I don't always believe that he showed that he could do that. But I don't think he showed that he can't do it either. I'm buying him because I still believe that he's the guy. But I bought him cheaper than I would have a year ago. That's for sure.
Nico Collins is that one elite wide receiver that I feel like gets way too much disrespect in the fantasy football community as not being elite. And I've seen some excuses being made like, oh, he's always injured and whatnot, but you know, you can't bank on injuries happening before they actually happen because that's just something we don't predict. Now, Cali King 49ers 17 took Nico Collins as his second wide receiver behind Jamar Chase. Is that insane value for the first draft spot?
Yeah, getting Chase and Collins is great. It's far be it for me to give Mason a compliment because I like the guy a lot. He's been good to me. So I'll keep all my praise to the side there. But if you can get Jamar Chase and Nico Collins 1-2 in any format, that's a solid start.
And he even brought up that Stroud was so overdrafted last year, it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And yeah, I completely agree with Mason there, just because, you know, whenever anybody has a disappointing season, you know, your feelings get in the way, they get hurt, and they go, oh, I'm never drafting this guy ever again. So
right.
Is that going to be the case with Christian McCaffrey being drafted at the 107 by Kendall?
Man, I was anti-McCaffrey for the Panthers. I was so wrong. I overcorrected. It was so pro McCaffrey, and then what happens? The injury thing came up again. So it feels like whatever I'm about to tell you, the opposite is going to happen. So I'm going to ride the fence like I love to do and say, Christian McCaffrey plays football, and he's pretty good at it. So if he stays on the field for 17 weeks or 16 weeks, he's going to be an elite level option. That offense, the Shanahan offense, basically is it's the best modern running game in the NFL, in my opinion. And I don't think it's close. Whether it was Deebo Samuel taking handoffs, whether it was McCaffrey, it doesn't matter. They got rid of Deebo now, so now they have a void back there. I don't think that they have an elite chess piece like they did with Deebo Samuel. So I think that's going to open up more opportunities for running. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be McCaffrey, but I do believe that they'll force other running backs in there more often because of that, which could give McCaffrey a bit more rest than he's used to. Because when you have a Debo Samuel, they'd line up McCaffrey and Debo in the backfield. Now you don't have that dual backfield thing. I could see them going to more traditional shotgun style runs and just having somebody spell him, which could hurt his value. But if you get him late in the draft, let's just say 1-7 was when he was taken by Kendall. So 1-7, I think that's a safe pick. It's still Christian McCaffrey. We forget that he was like LaDainian Tomlinson dominant at one point. And I don't think you just have one season of that and then just drop off the face of the planet. I think that's still in there, albeit watered down a little bit, but it's still there. And I still think he will be a productive player in fantasy football.
Absolutely. Even if he's taken ahead of Genty, I still don't hate it because assuming CMC is past his Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs, he's as good as elite when he's on that field and ready to go. Now, speaking of prospect profiles, which is kind of a stretch that I just made there, Jamie asks us a question: would you buy Michael Mayer in Dynasty with his prospect profile? Because now, the Vegas Raiders have not traded Mayer at this point, and we don't know if that's even going to happen. They draft Brock Bowers to succeed him, and listen, I'll even say from experience, I saw Michael Mayer's senior year at Notre Dame. I went to the Notre Dame-Boston College game 3 years ago where it was a complete blizzard by the third quarter, and he had 5 catches that game against a weak Boston College team. He looks really good, at least in the NFL, running his routes and not getting the ball enough. Are you buying him?
Man, I don't know. I was another guy that was pretty high on Michael Mayer. I have him in multiple dynasty leagues. I'm still holding on to him, but it's not a confident hold. Brock Bowers, everybody knew Brock Bowers was going to be good. I don't think anybody knew he would be this good. And when you got a guy this good, he doesn't leave the field. And if he leaves the field, it's not for good reason. And I never root against that sort of thing. I don't see them running traditional, like a 2 tight end type of a set. I could see now, to be fair, I think Michael Mayer is probably their third best receiving option if you don't count the running backs. And you've got Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, and Michael Mayer. So it could be an enticing, I think I call it 12 formation. I think you could see them do that, but with Chip Kelly being the offensive coordinator there now, I just don't really see Michael Mayer getting snaps, but I could see him being a trade deadline. We throw into another team, maybe like a Jimmy G Halloween type of a trade where all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, Michael Mayer is now the tight end 1 because he's been traded to the, I don't know, Bengals maybe. But I think it could be, I wouldn't pay a lot for him if I was buying him, but I'd damn sure sell him for a lot for that profile because he also had high draft capital associated with him. I believe he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
Second round pick, yeah.
Yeah, so second round picks aren't throwaway picks. I mean, he was a day 2 guy and he was an early day 2 guy. So in a situation where I'm trying to rebuild my team, yeah, I'll throw a late round pick on him. Nobody will probably bite on that, but I'm not going to give you the farm for a what if.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, and I'll be honest with you too, Matt. I predicted the Bengals trying to trade for Michael Mayer, thinking he was going to be on the block before the draft. But then they went and paid Gesicki.
Yeah. The Bengals, we tend to do the thing that people don't want us to do. Not in a good way. Not in a good way either.
Let's get to another question here by Mason. So James Cook is currently holding out and has not participated in OTAs because of the contract extension that has not happened. Whereas there's talk about Ray Davis purchasing of stocks. There's Ty Johnson that's probably going to get in the way. So what do you think is going to happen with James Cook? Is he playing this year?
Yeah, he's playing this year. I think Le'Veon Bell made that clear for everybody moving forward that if you sit out, the NFL just does not care about you, man. You either play while you can, while you have value, or your value will take a tumble. I think rarely we see these guys get what they want unless they're an elite level player, right? So we'll talk Lamar Jackson, for example, when his contract dispute was going on, and everybody was like, we know he's going to get paid. Lamar Jackson is too critical to not pay. Now, he's a quarterback. I get that. It's a little bit of a different conversation. But unless you're in that tier of player, where you're a Lamar Jackson, you're a Joe Burrow, you're a Josh Allen, you're I'll go for running backs, you're maybe Bijan or Saquon. You have to be that level. I don't think James Cook has hit that level. I think maybe he could, but he's also benefiting from a high-powered offense that people are scared of them throwing the ball, not running the ball. So he is benefiting from teams lining up on their heels while he's in the backfield. And I think that he's doing the posturing thing. I'm going to unfollow you. I'm going to put my house up for Zillow, see these mortgage rates, see if anybody wants to buy my multi-million-dollar house. I think he'll be there. If he's not there, I think he will be on somebody else's team, but I doubt that he misses the year.
Definitely. So we are coming up on about an hour. It has been a lot of fun. So before we do that, so I'm going to get to a couple of sponsors that have been really good to us, and starting with just matching the theme of tonight, Fast Draft Fantasy. We know that you love drafting. After all, it's why you're here, and there's no better place to do it right now than the Fast Draft app. Get in and get out with short drafts you can knock out while you wait at the DMV, for example. The Flex 4 drafts are running hot, and the Origins Gamma contests are only half full. Head over to the fastdraft.app and sign up with the promo code Optimus for a $50 deposit match as soon as you finish your first draft. That's 10 free drafts, friends. Head over to the fastdraft.app now and get drafting with the promo code Optimus. Also, the Fantasy Football Expo will be here before you know it, and we've got you covered. The Fantasy Football Expo is a great chance to meet your favorite analysts from around the industry, participate in meet and greet sessions, watch live industry drafts, and get to hang out with a bunch of fantasy football fanatics for an entire weekend at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Join the Optimus crew in Canton, Ohio between August 8 and 10 for live meet and greets, golf tournaments, cornhole, parties, panels, and more. Head over to thefantasyfootballexpo.com to get your tickets with our promo codes Optimus-2025 for $10 off the purchase of a gold, silver, or VIP package. Ultimate-Optimus-2025 for $25 off the purchase of the Ultimate Fan Experience. This includes a Friday exclusive meet and greet ticket to get up close and personal with your favorite fantasy football analysts. Limited number available. Matt, I'm so glad you joined us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Matt Montgomery, for joining us this evening. Matt, tell the people what you have coming up over the next few weeks or months that they should be checking out.
Oh, man, I'm coming out of the cave. I planned this perfectly. So the week after the 4th of July, I start a 10-part series on football, guys. 5 IDP busts and 5 IDP breakouts. So it's going to be IDP heavy, but I'm also covering the Miami Dolphins for training camp this season from Football Guys. I'll be re-upping the Dynasty Stock Market Weekly for Football Guys this year. Plan to do a bunch of different shows. I am ready, dude. I try to take a little bit of time to decompress during this time of the year to try to learn, honestly, to make sure my wife doesn't leave me. So I want to make sure that I get back, because she just puts up with so much football all the time. So even doing this, I'm sure she's probably like, "Are you almost done in there so I can go back to my kitchen?" But I do want everybody to know IDP's worth it. If you've never given it a try, tiptoe in there a little bit. It just gives you a different perspective when watching football games. If you think it's great, watching Saquon Barkley have an 80-yard touchdown, hurtling over people backwards. Imagine what it's like when you got a guy like Talanoa Hufanga on Monday Night Football having a pick six when you need it the most. That is exactly what IDP gives you. Tackles, sacks, interceptions, all of that. Let's give it a try. You don't even really have to know the schematics of football. Does the guy get the ball? Does the guy get a tackle? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, man.
You heard it here first, folks. Give IDP a try. You heard it here first from Matt Montgomery. So I want to thank, as also in addition to Matt, I want to thank everybody who joined the mock draft this evening, because you guys crushed it this evening. I planned for this draft to take at least 45 minutes just with the 10-second clock, thinking that we were going to reach the capacity for every single pick, but we flew through it in like 25, and that's why you guys are awesome for this. So thank you all, because it's darn near impossible to do a mock draft show without folks like you mocking with us. On Friday the 13th, no bad luck, I will be returning as a guest on Club Fantasy FFL's Mock It Like It's Hot show on YouTube. I will be promoting the Fantasy Now Plus Super League, which is a best ball tournament with fab waivers that supports an amazing cause. All proceeds from the tournament are going to go to Extra Life, which helps out the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Be sure to tune into them to see me on Friday, and visit fantasynowplus.com/super-league for more details. Next week, I have a super important guest joining me for another Scott Fish Bowl mock draft. The only hints I'm going to drop tonight is that he's a key figure for setting up the entire tournament, as well as helping host the Chicago live draft coming up at the end of June. If you know, you know. Coming to you live on Optimus Fantasy, this has been Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. Have a great night. I'll see you all next week.